Hey guys, it's Vandy as a Biocraft Vanguard deck profile. If you guys enjoyed, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and so sorry. This time we're covering another deck from DZ Set 10, this time being Nannaclir, the new Stoicheia deck piloted by Ruka Miyako, aka one of the only people that has actually beaten Kagetsu outside of Akina and presumably other characters off screen, probably also Michiru as well. But point is, this is an interesting deck that in the anime, Ruka is hyped up to be super powerful and OP. Upon release, everyone called this deck either bad or mid, and to be fair with you, I agree. It doesn't have any particularly thing that makes it amazing. It has the ability to gain triple drive and be a 4 attack deck, but that's pretty much it. And to be fair with you, Jewel kind of does the exact same thing. But in retrospect, this deck is in Stoicheia, a deck that has a lot of generics that you can run around with, and I found at least a build that works for me personally that is super aggressive and super fun to play, as evidenced by every match I have with this thing on camera. So let's start and see what we have. First today we have our energy generator. It's our ride deck crest. You remember our deck is a new ride deck. Auto ride deck, when you ride, put this card to your crest zone. If you win second, energy charge 3. Continue to spend 10 energy, I'll be getting ride phase, energy charge 3, and then act once per turn, energy about 7, draw a card. On pretty solid, you get a free 3 energy every turn. If you win second, you get extra 3 on top of that. And if you want to, once you hit 7 or more energy, you can blast away 7 of it to draw. In this deck, you will never use that skill to draw because there are 2 cards in this deck that use energy that are super important. One of which being, of course, your main grade 3 that can constantly get you rear guards and or your very important order card that the deck live or dies by. But also a very important grade 1 who essentially allows the deck to either have aggro or more consistency, which does also require 3 energy. So you would never use the energy about 7 to draw a card, but at least it will be there to constantly give you resources for other skills. Moving on, we have our starter in One Who Arrived at Paradise Lucent. Grade 0 boost 5k, show 6k base. Auto and road upon for second, draw card. Standard starter, nothing about the free draw if you go second. You can make this any starter you want. None of the riding line requires Lucent. However, because of a play that I just learned about during my last match with this deck, and hopefully the video is up by now, if it's the video that I think it is, it's Jeweled versus this deck Nannaclir, then you'll see why it's important to have Lucent as the starter. But essentially, it gives you 1 extra One Who Arrived at Paradise in the card name to help, increase your odds of being able to pull off Nannaclir. And if you think, oh, having just the starter there is going to really make that difference, no, it's not. I guarantee you it will, based off that match. Moving on, we have our triggers in Star Wars Dragon Deity of Blessings before, starting off as the Over Trigger. Grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k power, Over Trigger, remove trigger in your deck. Revealed as a trigger, move that card, draw a card, choose one music, give it plus 1 million for the turn. And if it revealed during Jet Check, activate its additional effect, would you get to draw a card, choose one music, give it plus 1 crit for the turn. Your entire front row gets 10,000 power, even though it's specified it is for the turn. And if your damage zone has more or the same number of cards as your opponent, you get to choose a card from your damage zone and heal it. So essentially, regardless if you damage check it or draft check, you get a million in a draw. But if you drove check this on top of the million in the draw, you get a second draw. Someone gets a crit, either the Vanguard or the unit that you give the million to. Your front row gets 10k, so if your opponent won to pass the Vanguard, you don't even have to give the million to the Vanguard. You just give it the 10k from the front trigger effect, and then someone else gets the million, and then you give the crit to Van. And then you even possibly get a heal. I love Best Before so much because sacking it in general offensively, it doesn't win you the game. It makes it a hell of a lot harder for your opponent to win because it just gave you such a massive advantage in terms of both your side of resources and your opponent's deficit in terms of damage, and probably hand cards as well in terms of guarding. But it doesn't guarantee you the win in that regard, so I love having Best Before as my over trigger. Moving on, we have our regular triggers, 3 of them being Frenzied Harris, grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 4k power. Front trigger can use guard sword, plus Vanguards are grade 3 guard, 5 lines of shield. I don't know how the non-clear decks look. I would assume they probably run draw triggers. I choose to run front triggers because, like I mentioned earlier, the intro with this deck is really aggressive. It is meant to focus on just swing first, ask questions later. So I need fronts for that because pretty much you want to start swinging the second you get the chance. By swinging the second you get the chance, I mean if you watch that Nannaclir versus Drajod video, literally, I forgot if I did it in game 1. I wanted to do it in game 1, but in game 2, I I went second. So on my first grade 1 turn, I made a full 3 attack line column. That's what I mean by you want to aggro your opponent. You want to throw hands with everything you got. So 3 up front. It's also a great 20k shield in case things go to worse. So 3 up. Then we have a total of 8 crit to obviously benefit from the aggro because the whole point is to push your opponent to 4 damage early on. So Aspire Maiden Alana, grade 0 boost 50k shield, 4k power. Kirko trigger auto rear guard about to boost your shove to soul. Choose unit, give it 2k for the turn. So if someone gets 2k, that's not really important. The main thing is that it goes to soul. This deck can get a little bit heavy with the soul blast, especially if you're spamming leaves feather 24/7 because you want to hit for good numbers. So if you're running a situation where you're constantly spamming out soul, there's your soul counter. Then we have 4 Peppery Pepper, grade 0 boost 50k shield, 5k base. You can make this any video you want. I just to make it Peppery Pepper because I don't know, it's cute. I like it. I think if it's on a clear theme, kind of decently. Then we have 4 heal and cheery support elf, grade 0 boost 50k shield, 5k base. You can make this any who you want. I chose to make a cheery support elf because she also fits on a clear theme in my opinion, but also because whenever there's always a crit and a heal pair that if I won one of them, I have to run the other one. Yeah, Peppery Pepper and cheery support elf for that crit heal pair for this deck, so I run both of them for obvious reasons. Moving on to our grade 1s. 4 copies of the whole whole reason why this deck is super fun, or it's a combo of this and the next card. Because this card and the next card are two cards I always wanted to put in my Stoicheia decks, but there was never room in my opinion because it just felt like they never needed it, or like they never fit with my playstyle with those decks, even though normal people do run them in there. So I was like, F it, after seeing Ruka play a really interesting deck that had a lot of one-ofs, one of which being Philander for whatever reason, to the point where I even put Philander in the original build of this exact deck. I was like, screw it, let me run this and see how it works, and I'm so glad I did. So Emi Capo Maiden Alvina, Great Old Boost 5k Shield, AK base, auto placed on rearguard circle from the hand specifically, other than during the battle phase, so you can't Superior Call off of Nannaclir and still proc it off, or Leaves Feather. It has to be placed from hand. Energy Blast 3, perform one of the following. Either choose an order card without Regalia speed from the drop zone, put it to hand, so great, it recycles your very important normal order that the deck lives or dies by, or more importantly, the ability you're going to use more often, choose a grade 1 or less from your drop zone, call it to rearguard circle. It can call itself. Again, it won't proc its own ability. It can call this, which unfortunately won't proc its first ability, but it will proc the second one and the third one. It could call this, get you more, or, also this if it ends up in the drop zone. So, get you more One Who Arrived in Paradise. Or if you Soul Blast it, will give you the reason to run this as your starter. All around, Alvina is a very good grade 1 because it allows you to early aggro. If you're wondering how consistent I pull that off, every game I go second, I do this. And then continues rearguard in return. If you have 4 more units, she gets 2k. That ability procs off regardless of what grade either player is at, so just think about that for a second. If you're consistently getting 4 units on the board on your first grade 1 turn, she's a 10k base. You have 2 other rearguard columns, one of which is this in a plant token, and the other one is literally like any other 8k base in the Vanguard. So yeah, you're probably doing really good in the numbers department. So for Alvina, good for aggressive pressure, good for consistency with getting the order back, 10k booster / swinger. Then we have 4 copies of another card that I always wanted to use, Harvest Elf. I say always, even though it only came out in set 9, so I legitimately had to do a double take when I realized it was a set 9 card, because I swear it was a promo. But Great On Boost, 5k shield, 5k base, auto when placed on rearguard circle from the hand during your turn, other than during the battle phase. Soul Boss 1, call plant token to rearguard. I always love how a lot of cards say other than during the battle phase, implying that if there was a way to call them during the end phase or the ride phase, it would still proc the skill. Either way though, being able to superior call a plant token just for a simple Soul Boss is great, because it fills up your drop zone for a very specific grade 1 play I just went over, but it also gets you an extra rear guard that you can do regardless of what grade either's player is at, which gives you a 10k column. I mean, you can call the plant token anywhere, but you're going to call it in front of it, because the second ability is continuous back or rear guard circle. Oh, if your opponent's Vanguard's a grade 3 greater, it gets 5,000 power during player's turn, so it's a 10k base. That's not the important part, because I guarantee you she will never live to your grade 3 turn, because for some reason I draw 2 of them before I get to grade 3s. I never draw the other 2. But the other ability, the reason why you're always going to call the plant token in front of her, auto rear guard. At the end of the battle that she boosted anything, retire 2 rear guards and then call them as her, draw a card. So she can boost anything, so if you found a way to give her the ability to count herself as 2 retires for her ability, then you could put her behind the Vanguard, she could kill herself to draw. But pretty much you would just boost plant token with her, kill that column, draw. Cool. Great way to get board press, great way to get a little bit of aggressive power, and great way to choose that if you want to retire to get hand cards you can, or if you don't retire, well, you're still keeping the ability on standby for next turn. All around, not a bad grade 1 at all. Get you rear guards, get you a 10k booster out of it, and like I said, get you hand cards and a very fun aggressive play to pull off, so 4 of. Then we have 4 of One Who Arrived at Paradise, Foodie Lettuce, grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. After rear guard, retire it to choose 1 of Blue in Paradise, Seed Mele Falate from your drop zone. During your turn, it gets continuous, it can be played from drop zone. After playing it, bot deck it. So pretty much it's that variant of Nannaclir Core, I believe, where like every nation has one of those where you can search your deck for the an order that's not Regalia's piece, ditch a hand card, and then that order can be played from drop zone and then bot deck it. But except it doesn't search your deck, which sucks, but it doesn't require a discard, and not bad. And then auto back or rear guard circle once per turn when a unit in the same column as it stands by your card ability. Any card ability, mind you. So God forbid they gave this deck another way to stand, it would be able to pull it off too. As long as your world's a stray garden, stand it. So downside is that the ability is only once per turn, so it's only going to proc off once. On the bright side though, it stands, so it basically allows you to swing with that stray garden column twice, because that column is going to get double critical on the second attack, which means you can be offensive with the one that's going to not have the double critical and the one that does have the double critical. All around, very solid grade 1 to have. It's a One Who Arrived in Paradise, allows straight guard and activate a little bit more consistently. It allows you to play your order more consistently, so 4 of Lettuce. Then we have 4 copies of RPG and Honeycomb Thyrus, the card that at this point I'm starting to, this is me jinxing it, but I feel like if I discard it, I win games, because again, in that Drajewed game, I ditched the PG, I ditched it stupidly, mind you, but I ditched the PG and I still won. And then the game beforehand against against Vaserug, I also ditched a PG, knowing full well this was a bad idea, and I still came out on top because of that decision. So grade 1 boost, 0 Siltus, K base, can change self for essentials in deck, and also put on guard circle. Choose on units, it cannot be hit on the bottom of hand stream or cards each card from hand and discard it. Standard PG, nothing special basically means if this is only one of cards in your hand plus on guard circle, you don't have to discard gate, because it means you be super aggressive in the early game. Okay, I'm gonna say it one more time. Harvest Elf, Soul Blast the starter, get a token, Alvinia, get the grade 0 right back, you got a full board, maybe call Les down for aggro, then when your opponent does eventually hit you back with either the same aggro or more, and it's in the early game and you're both fighting for power and you have one card left, Thyrus, middle finger, good to go. All around, very solid PG to have. You can make this Planet Prevent Dragon, you can make this Custodial Dragon, they have the same skill as Thyrus. I choose to make it Thyrus though, because it came out close to the time of Nannaclir's release, but also just like how Kagetsu is the only character in DZ that canonically uses the new DZ PGs, aka Strogal Arms, because for some reason no other character uses them, like for example, Keenan uses Paladinium Zeo Dragon. Ruka is the only other character that also uses the DZ PGs, in this case being Thyrus, so pretty cool. Moving on to our last character in the deck, one of in the right and in the main deck, of this very cool looking thing, honestly. Like, it looks, I love the blue, I love like the fur design, this thing is beautiful. One who arrived at Paradise, Yoltl. Great on boost, 5k shield, AK base, auto and Rotopon by one who arrived at Paradise, Nocturne, call to rear guard circle, soul charge 1. So it gets you soul to replace itself, and it gets you rear guards by being Rotopon. Cool, and again, you're already having a lot of board patterns from setting up on the early stage, and this is where you maybe want to use Harvest Elf to clear a column, that way you can call Yoltl to the open column, and then continues rear guard if your Vortal Stray Guardian gets 5,000 power. Cool, 13k base, pretty strong. It has what I'm going to call the Bruce wording, where when Bruce first came out, Final Rush was only a stage you could be during your turn. Same with Stray Garden. Eventually, Bruce got the ability to Final Rush during your opponent's turn, so every card that just said you had to be in Final Rush got its benefit during both players' turns, including Stephanie, mind you, who gave the unit in front of it 5k. That was a fun Vanguard defensive play. So if Bushy ever does make a way to stay in Stray Garden during your opponent's turn, 13k base. I mean, it doesn't matter. I'm just saying as a general rule of thumb. All around, very solid grade one to have. If you're wondering if you need any of the ride deck and the main deck to increase your Stray Garden value, again, you're in Stoicheia. You have a lot of like revival cards as a general basis. Just having them in the ride deck is good enough. Moving on to our grade 2s. 2 copies of Azure Sky White Scale, Asponia, and Sarfia. Grade 2 and 5k shield, 10k base. I love how the deck I meant to shove this into, the mill deck Belgear, I never use her ever. Like, she's just straight up discard fodder. And in this deck where she was made for one very specific purpose, somehow, consistently, every game, which shouldn't be possible, she has pulled off that moment. Auto, when placed on rear guard from hand, other than during the battle phase, check the top card, put it to top, or discard it. So you either guarantee your trigger or you yeet a card to drop zone. Then you can CB1 to perform on the following. Either pick any normal order from your drop zone back to back to your hand, so cool, recycle is your really good order that the deck lives or die by, or you call grade 2 or greater from your drop zone to rear guard circle. So Leaves Feather, who can then get you an extra rear guard in case that top card wasn't necessarily a trigger, but it's not a card that you want to send to drop zone, say for example PG. That way this is increases your chance to get rear guards, or at least worst case scenario you call PG to rear guard. Or maybe you got a Weaselin down there, or maybe it's a one who ride at Paradise unit in general. Anyways, the reason why she's here, specifically, the play that I put her in here for, was have Alvinia and Harvest Elf combo in with Yoltl, call Sarfia, use her skill to superior call the Weaselin, and then send a front trigger from the top back to the top of the deck. Do you know how consistently that's happened? Out of every 3 games, 2 of them had that exact play happen. How? I don't know. Again, that's 5 cards. Like, that is a, what is a card combo for that? Alvinia, Harvest Elf, plus Sarfia, plus Yoltl. We don't count Yoltl because Yoltl's guaranteed. So 3 plus Weaselin, so 4. Plus that is a 5 card combo that is pulled off every turn consistently on grade 2 turn. Just saying. 2 of. Moving on, 4 of one who arrived in Paradise, Weaselin. Grade 2 is a 5k shield, 10k base. Continue. I love how he's like kind of that Kitsune, like, blue flame foxfire type of deal, because like it's kind of a fox with fire in it. Anyways, continues rear guard to guard circle. If your Vanguard's a grade 3 guard, not clearing the card name, and your ward is a Stray Garden, it gets 5,000 power. If your ward is not a Stray Garden and your Vanguard's a grade 3 guard, if Nannaclir, it gets 5,000 shield. So that would be the one downside if Bushy did ever make it so Nannaclir could get Stray Garden during both players' turns, is that Weaselin would no longer be a 10k shield, it would only be a 15k base. But at the same time, I feel like if that ever were to happen, they would do it what they do with a lot of Bruce cards, and like, kind of reprint them in a stronger form. Like, you can't tell me that Jared, the one that Superior called, you can't tell me that that wasn't just a straight up retrain of Leonard or something similar. Or no, Patrick was Leonard retrain. Jared was like one of Bruce's cards retrained to use the final rush skill, or final burst, I guess. And then auto rear guard at the end of your turn. If you roll a stray guard and you get to soul, draw a card. Cool. Get you soul, which again, use up a lot on Leaves Feather over here, and Harvest Elf as well, especially if you draw all 4 of them. And it replaces itself by getting you a hand card. Sometimes though, you don't want to use that skill because it might deck you out, but also it gets rid of your 10k shield, because again, it'll be a 10k shield once the turn ends. So 4 of Weaselin. Very solid card. Get you soul, get you hand cards, 15k base / 10k shield. Not a bad grade 2 to have in the deck, and against someone who read to Paradise, so straight guard consistency. Then we have 4 copies of a card who I just not realized has a moon in the background. I never actually noticed it. I also thought the Dragon's Head was this petal right here, not literally right here, so pretty cool. One who arrived at Paradise, Leaves Feather Dragon. Grade 2, intercept 5k shield, 10k base. Auto place on rearguard circle other than during the battle phase. Counter boss 1, check the top 3, choose up to 1 card, grade less equal to your Vanguard. From among them, call to rearguard circle if it's a unit card, or put it to your hand if it is specifically a Bloom in Paradise, keyed male and shuffle your deck. If you reward a stray guard, and check the top 7 instead of top 3. So for the record, this deck does have another order other than a Bloom. So if you see that other order, not a Bloom, you can't pick that other order, no matter what. Like, it's either a Bloom's going to go to hand, or you call a unit card, or you just shuffle the deck. So being able to grab anything from the top 3 / top 7 is pretty soft for a CB. And the best part is it can be placed from anywhere. That means it can proc itself. Like, say for example, you Nannaclir into Leaves Feather, and then you check the top 7, you see another Leaves Feather, so then you use that Leaves Feather, and then who knows, you get a Bloom in Paradise, so there you go. And then auto rearguard when it attacks if your reward is a stray garden, regardless of where the opponent's Vanguard's at. So I was willing to give it 10k for the battle. So the thing I love about this deck is outside of Harvest Elf, who again is like the random generic card, nothing in this deck requires the opponent to be at grade 3 specifically. So you can kind of just hammer them out down at grade 2 turn. Again, the whole point of the deck being aggro, to where if you go first, you kind of just swing first, ask questions later. For Leaves Feather Dragon, it does eat into your soul, even though it's your only soul resourcer, because it's not a once per turn soul blaster, and you want to get that soul blast as much as possible, because you're probably giving the extra crit skill to it. And again, it can call a lot of units from the top 7. I mean, this is your way to rebuild a board / build up a board consistently, and get you order into your hand, which can also proc up its ability, and also has a lovely moon in the background, and just looks overall pretty so easy for me. And then we have the last grade 2 in the deck, one of in the rat and on the main deck of one who read at Paradise Nocturne. Grade 2 instead 5k shield, 10k base. I love how this is just a cute axolotl. This thing was awesome to me. Auto when wrote upon by a grade 3 graded card not clearing the card name, and we call this card to rearguard circle. If you call, choose a card from your drop zone, you eat to soul. If you don't call, draw a card. When I first read that skill, I genuinely thought that ability would be useless. And then against that match in Vezrug, I chose not to call it. And because I didn't call it, I won, because that one card made the difference between what my next drive checks and damage checks were going to be, which is ultimately what won me the game. Pretty cool that he can choose to call himself or not choose to call himself, and irregardless of everyone you choose to do, he does it for free as well, and he replaces himself if you do choose to call him from soul, and then continues rear guard. If your reward is a straight guard, he gets boost and 5,000 power. So 15k boost for free, all around making it a very solid grade 2 to have. I kind of wish this was the ride deck grade 3 to be fair with you, because see, like, his arch just looks so cool to me, and if he was a bit taller, I feel like he would be the ride deck grade 3, so one of Nocturne in the ride deck. On to our grade 3s, one of our Regalia's piece, Shroud in Darkness. I put Shroud in Darkness here as a backup, and after a lot of test playing, you don't need it. I still like having it as a safety option, but the deck consistently doesn't need it, but again, it's here if you want it. So grade 3, Regalia's piece, normal order, you might have Regalia's piece in your deck, and you can only use a total of 1 time per fight. If you do not ride from your ride deck this turn, this ability can be played for free, so either wait till turn 4 and onward to play it without paying the cost, or just play it on turn 3 for 1 CB. You have the 2 non-sentinel norm units with different card names from each other, and the sum of their grades being less than equal to your Vanguard from the drop zone, and call them to rearguard circle. If you call 1 or less cards, put this card to your soul. So it's a way to get soul / 2 extra rear guards onto board, making you have board presence. Mainly Shroud in Darkness is here to reactivate Stray Garden. Because at the end of the day, while yes, the orders of the deck is the thing the deck lives or dies by, the order doesn't do jack if you're not in Stray Garden. Stray Garden is more important, especially because Nannaclir gets triple drive in Stray Garden, and literally every one of your abilities gets procced off from Stray Garden outside of Harvest Elf and Beagle, who honestly isn't worth it at that point, and Safiria over here. So by all stretch of the imagination, I use Shroud in Darkness in case that situation does come up, like I play against a board in your deck, and I only have one hand hand card left. Nannaclir can get me 1 rear guard. Shroud of Darkness gets me 2 more. Hopefully that's enough to get me into straight guard and then get triple drive and aggro my opponent down. However, if you don't want to run it, because again, this deck has consistently played the order every single turn, and the turns I don't have a bloom, I don't have Shroud of Darkness either. But if you want to switch out this order, I definitely recommend Twin Cast for more defensive power, because that works just as well. But I prefer Shroud of Darkness in case the situation does come up where I have to try to fight back with very limited resources. As for, of course, our very important order that the deck lives or dies by, for a Bloom in Paradise, Seed Milfate. I definitely said that wrong, but I have no idea how to pronounce that, so if someone pronounced it properly in the comments, that'd be greatly appreciated. Grade 3, normal order, plays card for Vanguard's Nannaclir in the card name, no cost to it whatsoever outside of that one condition, and you perform one of the following. Either choose a card with 1 Who Ride to Paradise as a card from your drop zone, call it the rear guard circle, so it gets you 1 rear guard, aka a worse version of Shroud of Darkness in my opinion, or choose one of your rear guards with 1 Who Ride to Paradise in the card name until end of turn. It gets all the rear guard once per turn when this unit stands by any means whatsoever. Until end of turn, if your ward's in straight guard, it gets a critical, and it gets 5,000 power. The 5,000 power stays before it gets the critical. So it gets the 5,000 power the second the orders play, which means it can be used for both the first attack and the attacks after which it stands. But it only gets the critical once, so if it finds a way to stand multiple times, it's only going to get the critical 1 time. Either way though, very great because Nannaclir can restand rear guards. Typically you give that ability to Least Feather, so swinging for 25k, maybe 35k with a Persona Ride thanks to its on attack skill. If you boost it with Lettuce over here, then 43k. Your opponent guards or whatever, Nannaclir swings Counterblast, stand the column, it'll be the same number again. However, now it gets +1 critical, so now it's 43,000 double critical without triggers. So pretty solid all around on the defensive pressure. And then finally, the ability that I thought wasn't going to mean anything is actually really good. Auto, when it's revealed from your deck and put into your hand by the ability of your card Paradise in the card name, that includes Nannaclir's ability to search it, and also that includes Least Feather's ability to search it, which you think would happen often. It's actually very consistent, especially if you're confident enough that your Least Feather is going to hit an order and you don't have a copy in hand, because I've done that a lot of times where I haven't had the order in hand and no way to play it, and I saw Least Feather and the order in the top 5, and I was like, I'm going to hit the order off of Least Feather, so I use Nannaclir, get Least Feather, use Least Feather, I'll see another Least Feather and an order, and then depending on my board presence, if I need another rear guard, I'll Least Feather, and typically I'll see the order again, or I'll just straight up grab the order. But anyways, you get to draw a card and reveal it. Honestly, not bad. Get you hand cards to help replace the fact that you have an order in hand. Get your rear guard, worst case scenario, to get yourself into straight guard. And if you're already in straight guard, well, ups your numbers and gives you crit pressure. All around, very amazing order. Literally no cost to any of its skill whatsoever, outside of having an Nannaclir Vanguard having to reveal itself, making it an easy 4 of. And as for our last card in the deck, 3 of the main deck, 1 of the right deck of our very main grade 3, who is kind of mid, but you know what, she does her best to work with what she's got. 1 who guides towards Paradise, Nannaclir. That is my first problem with this card. If it said 1 who arrived in Paradise, it would be so much better. Because now, if you run into the situation where you are 1 unit short of being in straight guard, and this is the only thing in your hand, you're kind of screwed because she doesn't have arrived in Paradise, it's guides towards Paradise, which basically means you're not going to be in straight garden. So fun. Anyways, grade 3 10% 30k base, continues Vanguard during your turn specifically. If you have 3 or more rear guards with 1 who arrived in Paradise in their card names, your ward becomes straight guard, it gets triple drive. Again, not that hard to pull off. You got Nocturne, Least Feather, Weaselin over here, Yolto, Lettuce, Honorary, 1 who arrived in Paradise, Lucent if you actually use Honorary arrived in Paradise over there. So yeah, you get straight guard and she becomes triple drive again, regardless of a grade you plus Vanguard. So triple drive against a grade 2 is great, especially because a lot of the times this deck likes to either pull triple triggers consistently, or it'll pull 2 blanks in the over, or it'll pull just 3 blanks, and a lot of the time in those triple triggers, one of them's the over. So that is a consistency. Like, check all the matches I've done with this deck. It kind of has happened a lot. At this point, I kind of just seek the word aggro, throw hands first. Second skill, active Vanguard, once return, energy box 3, check the top 5, so to 1 card from one of them, reveal it. Either call it to rear guard circle if it's a unit card, or put it to your hand if it is specifically a Blooming Paradise Seed Milfate. Shuffle your deck. If you call it a 1 who arrived in Paradise unit, it gets 5,000 power for the turn. So you either get a free rear guard in general, which I mean, it doesn't do you much unless it's a arrived in Paradise, but still gets you a rear guard, but also it possibly gets a 5k as well, or gets you the order, which again turns into a draw. And then finally, auto Vanguard, again, regardless of what grade the opponent's Vanguard's at, when attacking anything, Vanguard or rear guard, CB1, choose a rear guard stand it. All around, pretty solid. Gets you offensive pressure, restands units, gets triple drive, gets board pressure, all while your opponent is at grade 2 for only 3 energy and a CB. The best part is about all of this is that with that restand skill, if you know your opponent has like stacked a trigger at the top, or you know they're going to see the over, and you have Lee's Feather who just stood, they got an extra critical, you want to swing at the rear guard instead, because if you don't pull a critical trigger in your drive check and your opponent takes it, well, they're going to sack the over. If you pull a crit in the drive check, now Lee's Feather is lethal, even if they do pull the over, because then they have to pull a heal, just depending on what their damage count is. Our Nannaclir, solid grade 3. She gets triple drive, she gets you board presence, she gets you restand, multi-attack, and again, she does it all while your opponent's at grade 2. It's not amazing grade 3, it's not, but it's a decently, like, really well-designed grade 3. And then obviously, to help with our 2 Harvest Elves in here, we have 2 plant tokens. I mean, yeah, technically we need 4 because you have 4 Harvest Elves, but realistically, you're going to kill them the same turn you place them anyways, and even if you don't, you're only ever going to call them whenever you're putting your Harvest Elf on the side column, so yeah, never really have to worry about having more than 2 of them on hand if you're planning on buying the deck. And without further ado, that's it for this one. Hope all of you guys enjoyed. Our run of this deck is really fun to play. I like the idea of Arrived in Paradise. You get a lot of rear guards on board. Your Vanguard is like consistently just swing face, has aggressive pressure. And the way Ruka's deck was built, it was prepared for a lot of different situations. In reality, you can't really do that with this deck. But at the same time, the deck has the potential to do a lot. We just need to see a lot more one who arrived in Paradise with varying different skills. And I honestly think the deck could pull out a lot of great things from it. But for now, it stays on like the level of mid. But depending on his next few cards, could be really good, especially if they treat it like they did Vazir, where it gives it actual good support. So I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join the Twitch, and don't forget to set up your Vanguards.